Hello, welcome back to Mark Mack Being Me, podcast episode 23, Living 10X, how to transform your life in 2024, and let's get into it. Some of the key points today we're going to be looking at is the book 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy, also the 80-20 principle, how you can implement that in your life, some journaling prompts that I like to use too, and it's very simple, maybe it takes 5 minutes each, so that's really handy. And also some questions from our community that we have, right? And getting into it as well, like living 10x, transforming your lives and being 10x. It's not for everyone. So if you're looking to expand your life, if you're looking to really experience more, especially in 2024, and to set some goals, but to be detached from the goals, to really thrive this year, then this is for you. If that doesn't sound like you, then this podcast is not for you, and that's okay too. Something I'm really excited about to begin with is I have an offer. I'll be opening the doors for my one-on-one coaching services in 2024, and that is for life coaching, accountability, and mentoring. So this is for people who are looking for accountability with their goals in life, might be struggling with a lack of focus or clarity in daily life, or you are stuck and unsatisfied. You're looking to feel more confident and happy. Maybe you're embarrassed and uncomfortable with where you're currently at in life. Or you might be feeling alone, misunderstood, or you're struggling with speaking your truth and you're not receiving the validation or recognition you deserve. How you can get in contact with me is just to send me a direct message, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook. If you DM me the word coaching, and there we can set up a call at a time that's good for both of us, where we can discuss your life, talk about what's going on, and seeing if coaching is for you. Just so you're aware as well, I've got 5 spots available, and that is because that's all I can really handle for this present moment. So I'm very excited to announce that. Looking forward to connecting with more beautiful souls. That's honestly one of my favorite things to do in the world, is to hold space for people and to experience growth. Getting started with 10x is easier than 2x. So here's the book by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Now this is for how world-class entrepreneurs achieve more by doing less. So obviously the key point is this is not for everyone, right? But if this is for you, let me share a couple of key points that I received from the book. The first one is that we're looking at increasing the quality, not the quantity of your life. So when you think about going 10x, you might think I need to do more, which is almost like the Grant Cardone take on 10x living. But the reality is it's not about doing more. And I know that through my life, like the more I do, it really does come down to the energy that I'm in and why am I doing these things? Am I moving from a state of fear, lack, or am I coming from a state of love, abundance, and happiness and having fun? So the focus in this book, which I love, is increasing the quality. So something we'll talk about in the next step is the 80-20 principle and focusing on the 20%. What is the 20% quality of your life that you want to focus on? But for now, let's go into the next point, and that is why going for impossible goals is easier and more practical than incremental or linear goals, 2x thinking, right? So when you think about it, if you're trying to improve your life 5-10% to where it is now, then you're going to be inundated with a plethora, so many different ways that you can actually improve your life 5 or 10%. There's thousands of paths that you can take. But if you're focusing on impossible goals, then it's really hard to think about from your current mindset how that could be achieved, which is exactly what you want, because you don't want your current way of thinking to dictate your life, because your current way of thinking is only getting you where you are now. If you want to improve your life, you must go for the impossible goals. And it's not actually about achieving the impossible goals. It's about creating this new way of thinking. It's about opening your mind up to new thoughts, new avenues, right? So when you're going for impossible goals, it activates the reticulator activating system within your brain that gets you to identify and determine and think about things that you would never normally think about. So that's the beauty in going for the impossible goals. Another thing that some people, like I was thinking, you could get stuck on is, okay, I'm going for impossible goals. Am I attached to the outcome, right? Like, what happens if I don't get it? The whole purpose of this book, 10x is easier than 2x, has nothing to do with the outcome. It's about who you're becoming within that process. It's that journey of self-discovery, which is what I love, and it's very much in alignment with the way that I am in life. So that's beautiful. Another key point is how to become psychologically flexible. So for me, the way that I identify that is, how can I separate from the emotion? If I'm triggered, if I'm in a certain place and it makes me feel, for me, like I feel like I get crunched up and I just feel like a pain in my chest. Like if I'm anxious, if something happens, a certain situation, and I feel an emotional charge, how can I separate from that emotion as opposed to being in that state for minutes, hours, days, even weeks, right? And for me, there's certain ways that work for me, being psychologically flexible. A beautiful key concept that Dr. Benjamin Hardy talks about is reframing your past. So there's ways that you can do that in terms of journaling, like writing down all the growth that you've experienced in life, from where you were 10 years ago to where you are now, all the growth, all the incredible experiences that you've had that have shaped you and brought you to who you are now. Because in life, we're constantly changing. For me, psychological flexibility, what's helped with me is I've had coaches that have actually allowed me to go into past memories. Specifically, I'm thinking about Oscar, my spiritual coach from Sweden, and he would put me into a meditative state and we'll revisit past memories, right, that I would deem traumatic. So it could be breakups with ex-girlfriends, or it could be moments where my mum and dad had triggered me, or my older brother, whatever it is. And revisiting those past memories, being guided by archangels, like I had Archangel Gabriel, and whatever being resonates with you, just taking yourself back to that moment and asking that past version of you, what do you need in this moment? And a lot of the times it was just needed to be understood. It just needed to be loved. Just wanted to feel love. And I would actually visualize myself hugging my past version of myself, giving them that love, that validation that they needed. And within that process, I could feel a separation from the emotion. I could literally feel like I had my eyes closed and I could envision this white light just taking up the entire space of that experience. And then I could feel a release of the emotion coming out of my body. And for me, the way that my body expresses it is generally like yawning, or could be burping or sighing. It's just, I can tell that I am separating from the emotion because I can physically feel it. So psychologically flexible means that you're confronted with certain situations that might trigger you, but you have a degree of detachment from the emotion in those moments, and you can separate from it. Sometimes you go straight into it and you just feel it and you're triggered, right? It's not saying that you're not going to feel the emotions, but it's more saying, for me, that you can have the ability to separate from them. They're not going to dictate your life. You're no longer a slave to the way that you feel, right? And that can powerfully set you up to be your 10x future self. Another key point is how to clarify your unique ability. So what you are put on earth to do, your purpose. That's the way I feel about that. What are you uniquely good at that you yourself can do and no one else can do it as good as you? And it's really coming back to asking yourself a lot of questions, journaling, reflecting, and becoming more and more self-aware. But also there's some questions that you can ask those people that are closest to you, loved ones, friends, for instance. I have a list of questions that I've asked previous clients, people that I used to coach, and that in a way just gave me a sense of validation, or just awareness of the abilities and gifts that I do have, right? Because sometimes in life, for me in particular, the mind can be so strong and can just take you away from the beauty that you have, that you can offer this world. It's always thinking about the negatives, what goes wrong, why can't I do better, like who are you to coach, like all these sort of thoughts. But these limiting beliefs are stopping you from becoming that 10x future version of yourself. It does take a fair bit of intention, diving into some questions you can ask yourself, ask some friends, the loved ones around you, but really, it always does come back to you. Okay, diving into the 80-20 principle now. There's a quote from Jim Collins on Good to Great. If you have more than 3 priorities, you don't have any. Right, so the 80-20 principle is talking about what 20% of work, of stuff, can give you 80% of the results. And Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan in this book, 10X is Easy and 2X, dive deep into the reality of focusing on 3 things, as Jim Collins said in Good to Great as well, 3 priorities that you need to focus on that can give you 10x the results, and filtering out the 80%, all the noise that you don't need. So for me, focusing on 3 areas of my life, one of them is family and health and spirituality. I feel like that comes into the one. The second priority is coaching. Like, how can I improve being a better coach? And how can I dive deeper and give more to my clients? And the third one is actually sales and marketing. I realized that late last year, I was in an 8-week rapid transformation program with Dr. Benjamin Hardy, and we're just exposed to so much energy of these entrepreneurs. There's 500 different people in this group, and a lot of them, what I deem as successful entrepreneurs. Exposing yourself to those sort of like mastermind groups, that energy, it definitely changes the way you're thinking, but also exposes you to, okay, now I'm just questioning, what do I want to go for? Like, what are my goals? What are my impossible goals? How can I get there? And then it becomes clearer. The path becomes clearer because I know exactly where I'm going. And I have all these realizations. And one of those realizations was, I really enjoy creating. I really enjoy being a coach. But there's the other side of that, which is like sales and marketing, which I put 0 attention or awareness into. And it's no surprise when you put no attention into it, it's not going to grow. It's like a garden that you're not watering. How's that going to grow? So those are my 3 focuses: my family, my spirituality, my health, my coaching services, how I can give back to the world and do the best that I can do. And also sales and marketing, like how can I actually share myself out so more and more people resonate with my message, and then I can find more people. So they're my 3 priorities right now. And the 80%, the stuff that I'm going to let go of, a lot of that is distractions. A lot of that's separating the signal from the noise. So the noise for me, it's social media without intention. Social media, there's such a powerful opportunity if you allow yourself to have that opportunity. Also, the way that it's designed is to manipulate and to control your attention. You can either utilize it with intention, or we can become a slave to it. So for me, that means having accountability. I've got an accountability buddy in Matt Gamble over in Sydney, and I message him every now and then when I feel overwhelmed. I say, Matty, I need to be accountable, letting you know I'm not going to check Instagram until midday today. And that literally happened yesterday. A couple of days ago, I was feeling overwhelmed. And for me, how that happens is because I'm exposing myself to far too much information. I'm looking at this coach, getting ideas. I'm looking at social media. I'm getting in contact with everybody, but I'm also just scrolling and, mindlessly behaving. And then I'm listening to the podcast, audiobooks, and I've got so many things happening at once. And my wife knows when I'm going down that path, feeling overwhelmed, because, she's asking me, who are you listening to? Who are your coaches or whatever? And every time I'm talking to her, there's like 10 or 15 different people that are influencing me. Something I got from a David Goggins podcast was the reality of quietening everything down and just listening to your inner voice. No one can tell you what you need to know other than you. I call it God's voice, that intuition, your gut feeling, your heart. You know the way, but you need to work out what works for you to filter out all the stuff that you don't require. So I know for me, I need to filter out social media. I know porn is a distraction as well. Having an intention when I'm on there. Like, there's also some positives on social media. For instance, I do have a free Facebook group, the School of Freedom, and that is a community that I'm building that I want to start implementing accountability, having group chats and providing value, asking questions. What does everyone need? So there is that side of social media too. It's not something to demonize, something to bring your awareness to, that this is what we're exposed to in 2024, and how can I get the most out of 2024? I take away all the things that distract me. So there's distractions like social media. There's also limiting beliefs like I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, and I'm working on that every day. I have meditations that I listen to each morning. I get myself into a space where I am clear and clean with my energy and allow it to flow. And for me, what that looks like is a morning ritual. It includes breath work, meditation, there's sage, there's intention, there's Sanskrit. It sounds a lot, but it's not. It's really stripping away all of the noise, allowing that space and coming back to my center first thing. And I love that. I love that devotion. So that's it for me. That's what I'm letting go of. So something that Dr. Benjamin Hardy also says is, if you're never fully unplugged, you're never fully deep and in the zone, right? And that's exactly it. You're never really deep in the zone if you're always constantly working. So in this book as well, they talk about having free days in your week as opposed to working every single day of the week. Having free days, because that actually allows the ideas to come. You're not going to find ideas when you're sitting down at the desk every day working. For me, the ideas come in the mundane. A lot of the ideas actually come when I get rid of the noise and I'm working as an electrician part-time. I'm wiring a switchboard, and then all of a sudden the ideas come. I did get in a habit of putting the AirPod headphones in and listening to podcasts or audiobook or coaching call or whatever it was. But it wasn't until yesterday where I said, no, fuck that. Strip all the noise. Allow whatever to come in, and actually have an intention and ask God, the universe. Like, ask and you shall receive. I literally asked God the night before, how can you help me? How can I serve? Like, help me. I'm at a point where I'm like, please help me. And he answers, and then I had that day yesterday during work, no noise, just being, and all of a sudden these insights came. It's like, do this, 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 this. I'm like, okay, ask and you shall receive, and give space, because in that space, it allows that energy to come through. Don't distract yourself. That's my biggest takeaway from the 80-20 principle. Okay, moving on to journaling prompts. So there's two types of journaling that I like to do. Number one is evening journaling, and number two is weekly journaling. And I'll be honest, the weekly journaling, I've sort of fallen off track the last couple of weeks since I finished the 8-week rapid transformation program. But it's something that I'll be implementing every Friday. So let's just start with the evening journaling. There's 3 key points for the evening journaling I'd like to focus on. Number one is, how am I different from yesterday? So write 3 key points on how I'm different from the previous 24 hours. Number 2 is, what are my 3 goals tomorrow? So what are the 3 things that I really want to focus on that are in alignment with my impossible goals, with my future self, and that are going to create the biggest results, right? And then number 3, the most important, is, today I am grateful for. And there I just write a list of things, of people, of events that I'm grateful for, and I truly feel the emotion of that, right? So when I'm writing that, the first one I write is, I'm grateful for me. I'm grateful for God. I'm grateful for my wife, for my girls. I'm grateful for the sun coming up in the morning and feeling that and warming my face, and really feeling all of the different ways that you can be grateful for. Eckhart Tolle talks about gratitude is the foundation of all abundance. And he's right. So that's my evening journaling, and it takes only 5 minutes. The weekly journaling, we're looking at reflecting on the last 7 days, right? So what are you proud of, and how did this week happen for you, right? So some weeks you might be like, not proud of anything. I was just deep in the resistance of what was going on, right? But you can actually reframe that week as a win. And Benjamin Hardy talks about it in another book called The Gap and the Gain. And he talks about how if you start to reframe your past as a win, then you'll start to focus on that more and more in the future as well. And then that in turn brings you more into the present moment, because you're no longer a slave to the past, a victim of always complaining of like, this happened to me. Now it's like, how is this happening for you? So it's bringing your awareness into, okay, these things happened. Yeah, they were deemed negative, traumatic, triggering. How did that happen for you? Well, it's showing me an insight that I'm starting to become more aware of how I'm feeling in certain situations, and I'm able and more easily able to detach from that emotion. So in a way, then that is a win, right? And it's also teaching you some instances, I don't want to do that anymore, or like, this is not serving my higher self. Okay. So as you start to journal that, reflect on that, you're starting to point your attention into it. Whereas before it's just in the dark and it's happening and it's always happening, it's on repeat. But until you actually bring that to the surface, into the light, then you can start to make change in your life. So it's really being radically honest with yourself too. And then set the next 7 days. What massive moves are you going to commit to making next week? So what are the things that are going to shift everything for you, that are like your impossible goals that are just going to 10x your entire life next week? So focusing on that, so then you have a clear path. And it's not about getting the goal, it's about who you become in that process. That's what I really love. Now, wrapping up this podcast, we have some questions from our community. That's in our Break Free Now School of Freedom Facebook group. If you feel like joining that, I've got a link into the show notes for that. And that's where the community, we can ask questions, we can build growth, come together. We're all like-minded people that are here for the same purpose of bettering ourselves, of growing, expanding, and also just being our best versions. So these are some questions that I ask community in regards to being 10x. The first answer came up from Janina, which is my beautiful wife. She mentioned that she was out with 7 kids, so her meditation this morning was essential. It's essential every day, really, which is beautiful. So these are the questions Janina said was, which thoughts am I missing when I have a goal and don't do the steps that are necessary to reach it? When I'm not consistent with the steps, not motivated, distract myself with other stuff that is just stuff and not a priority. What does that mean for my goal? Do I really want to achieve it? Am I scared? Is it right for me? Am I trapped in my old rhythm and just need to form new habits to be consistent? What can push and help me leave those old habits behind to be able to establish new ones and to reach these goals this year? Why can't I just do it and not let the short-term goal win over my long-term goal? And Alex also mentions she is great. I couldn't have worded it any better. And she's right. And I feel like so many of us can relate. So many of us can relate. I also feel like you answered the question within your questions. Am I trapped in my old rhythm and just need to form new habits to be consistent? Yeah, now for me, yes. For me, there's 2 things that I focus on, right? I focus on how can I actually create my new best self, my future self. So focusing on the future and visualizing and, bringing that into my awareness every day now. In the morning, I have a meditation, right? And I meet my future self and I feel it and I see my future self in front of me, and then I hug him and I embrace him and I envelop, I feel the energy of my future self and I become that. And then I let go and I thank him and I give him thanks. I give him gratitude, give him love, and let him go on his way. And the other part of that is also detaching from the thoughts, from the identity, the subconscious patterns that have been playing out. So there's a little bit of psychology, a little bit of spirituality behind that as well, of like, we are fully present, we are the entire world, like we are consciousness itself, but we are also experiencing this human body that has been programmed through our childhood, through this identity that we've created, which is not us. However, we do experience that in day to day, the program that plays out, right? So separating from that requires intention. It requires an intentional effort to put in. And so for me, I actually listen to a meditation as well, detaching from that, becoming my best version. So I feel like everyone goes through that. Like everyone feels scared, everyone feels overwhelmed. What thoughts are you missing when you're not reaching your goals that you're going for? It becomes really, really clear for you when you sit down and give yourself that time to go inside and to ask yourself, what are your 3 priorities? And then to focus on those and realize that everything else is a distraction, right? And another helpful tool is to look at this, like to revisit this every 90 days. So in a year, we have 4 quarters. We've got 90 days times 4. And so to set these impossible goals every 90 days, and then after that, after 3 months, to revisit it, to look at it, to refine, and to go forward into another direction, right? So it takes a lot of intention, but you have to be intentional with who you are. What is your unique ability? Where do you want to go? And setting those impossible goals so you can actually go there. There's a lot of beautiful questions, and I'm sure we all, as I do, can relate to that as well. Go through that. And finally, here's a beautiful question from Beck. So her thoughts at the moment after getting back home from 7 weeks of travel, catching COVID for the first time currently. She has a lack of motivation with this sickness. She has little squirts of energy and then complete exhaustion, and starting creating a new job and opportunities. Maybe the question is around when we are 10xing ourselves, but sickness or unforeseen circumstances that stop us from being able to hit markers come into the fold. Yeah, definitely. There's a couple of things that come up for me with this. One of them is when I'm sick, for me, that's like a sign for my body just to slow down. And that's exactly where I'm at in that moment, right? So I used to fight it. I used to want to be healthy straight away, and like, this is fucked, I still want to go to the gym or whatever it is, but fighting how you're feeling is not going to get you anywhere. It's actually going to keep you in that sickness. But surrendering to how this present moment is unfolding, right now you're sick, right now you have COVID, right? What can you do to make yourself feel healthy? Sometimes it's fasting. Sometimes it's healthy juice cleansers, or you find out whatever works for you because you know your body better than anyone else. But in terms of, how does it impact your 10x? Well, it's life. In life we're going to get sick, right? And so 10x is actually talking about having days of deep focus, deep rest and recovery, and buffer days, to do little tasks like organizing, office stuff. So when you're sick, allow yourself to be sick and rest, And the other thing for me is on a spiritual side, always know that a breakthrough can follow a breakdown, right? So in case of COVID sickness, a lot of incredible ideas came to me when I had COVID last time when I was in Germany. But even more recently for me, a couple of days ago, going through this massive overwhelm of stress, of too much inputs, too much information coming in for me, going through that and then separating from the noise, I would call that like a massive breakdown. And then the breakthrough came to me of this insights of what I can do. All these ideas, you can call them downloads, whatever you want to call them, they came to me after that breakdown. So just know that whatever you're going through is not forever, and also it could be leading you to your next breakthrough. So thank you, Beck. Thank you, Janina, and special shout outs to Janina because she actually really inspired me to start launching my one-on-one coaching. I was very hesitant in a way of I was not prepared. I was not ready. I was looking for more information, but sometimes you need people close to you to give you that push. Sometimes it's important to have a beautiful, powerful inner circle that are positively impacting your life for the better. So grateful for you. Thank you, Hazi. And this has been a beautiful podcast. Thank you for listening. Living 10x, transforming your life in 2024. Looking forward to hearing your experience of living 10x this year. Let's go.